Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we have an absolute mad lad who has brought a Great League Morpeko to the Master League and is attempting to get wins with it. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, OG St. Nick, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now this Morpeko is 1497 combat power, so eligible for the Great League, but Nick says, nah, it's too easy using Morpeko in the Great League. Let's see if I can get wins with it in Masters. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at Morpeko in action in the Open Master League. Hopping into the first match, leading Morpeko into Mewtwo. Mewtwo has over triple the combat power of Morpeko. Morpeko is going to farm up and fire off Electric Aura Wheel. Electric Aura Wheel, the opponent ends up shielding. Traitor, this is a Great League Pokemon. You do not have to respect it. Morpeko no-shields a resisted Side Strike, almost one-shots. Morpeko returns fire with a boosted Aura Wheel, and that does some serious damage. Mewtwo does get the farm down. It does exit with energy. In comes the Zacian, and Zacian will immediately be met with a Side Strike. Side Strike is going to land, dealing massive damage. Zacian wants the farm down, but the farm down is denied as Mewtwo on 1 HP makes one final move. In comes Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh farming up quite a bit of energy, and Zacian is very close to the back-to-back Wild Charges. Zacian goes for Wild Charge number 1, opponent is going to shield, and now Zacian gets Wild Charge number 2. So this Ho-Oh has a lot of energy, but unless they're running Solar Beam, this energy goes nowhere against Shadow Rhyperior. In comes the Shadow Rhyperior, choosing to respect the Solar Beam, and what a good decision! Opponent having the Solar Beam tech in the back his Lugia, and Shadow Rhyperior looks to be in command after that shield. That Shadow Lugia gets absolutely shredded by a Rock Wrecker. Breaking Swipe now going to pick up the knockout on the Lugia. Ho-Oh, there's just such little of it left. It gets Mud Slapped down, and that's game over. We move to the next match, leading Morpeko into Mewtwo, and this is honestly basically the best lead that Morpeko could see. It goes without saying this battler obviously did a ton of battles with Morpeko in the Master League, and these are the highlights. Without a doubt, they ended up losing Elo overall, but the nice thing is they did send in the most entertaining battles here. So here the Mewtwo actually shields an Aura Wheel again for the second battle in a row. Opponents are shielding a neutral move, and they're actually double shielding versus a Great League Pokemon. Oh my goodness. Opponent having nightmares of getting one shot from the Great League, so they end up double shielding a Mewtwo, and now in comes Zacian. Zacian is going to look to try and make it to a Play Rough here. Play Rough is reached, but the opponent switches out and they make a catch onto Necrozma. It is going to be Necrozma Dusk Mane, so that is a pretty savage catch from the opponent. Necrozma going to be hit with a Wild Charge. This does a lot of damage. This is going to get Dusk Mane very low. Dusk Mane panics a little bit and throws a move. They could have committed to a farm down there and gotten it, but they were worried their health got too low, and now this just sets up farm for Rhyperior. And Shadow Rhyperior up a shield is quite scary, although it will immediately have to give back that shield as Mewtwo re-enters the field of play and fires off a Side Strike. But in the back, they're just cooked as it's Ho-Oh, and Ho-Oh is about to get one shot with a double super effective Rock Wrecker. Back in comes the Mewtwo. Mewtwo going to be hit with a Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe will do a solid amount of damage here. The turn weight and the catch. Absolute savagery from OG St. Nick. He did not have to do that to him. Oh my goodness, the disrespect. And that is a good game. Moving to the next match, Morpeko versus Zamazenta. The save switch to Zacian, but it's a Metal Claw Zamazenta. Oh no, the opponent with the tech, and it pays off as these Metal Claws are shredding the Zacian. Zacian rapidly approaching only 50% health remaining, forced to give up a shield here as the Zamazenta is actually running Moonblast, and they get a catch. Oh my goodness, catching the Play Rough onto Heatran. But the clocks are misaligned here, which means that Zacian can switch out into Rhyperior. Zacian actually chooses to stay in here and fire off a Wild Charge. Wild Charge does get shielded up by the opponent. Zacian tries to get there and does not. I definitely think could have just brought in the Rhyperior because of how significantly the opponent desyncs the timers. Nothing that the Heatran can throw here. I mean, Stone Edge, Magma Storm is going to do a lot of damage. In comes Rayquaza, and Rayquaza is just getting one shot. So Rayquaza enters the battle and exits the battle at the same time as it gets fully one-hit KO'd. Now this Shadow Rhyperior is energy dry, but it does have the shield to hide behind, but not for much longer. Zamazenta fires off a close combat. Zamazenta now going to be heavily debuffed, trying to pace to a move, but Metal Claw not the fastest in terms of energy generation. The Zamazenta is going to get KO'd with a Breaking Swipe. Back in comes the Heatran. That's getting Mud Slapped down, and that's game over. Morpeko versus Giratina. This is a Dark-type Pokemon going up against Giratina, but Giratina is going to absolutely shred it. Morpeko going to go for the resisted Aura Wheel, and that just does nothing. Oh, that is absolutely tragic. Morpeko honestly probably gets knocked out by an Ominous Wind here, even though it is resisted. Opponent goes for the Ominous Wind. They get the boost. Boosting against a Great League Pokemon when you're a Master League Pokemon has to be a crime. That Aura Wheel still did quite a bit, though. We're now going to see a switch out into the Zacian, but a boosted Shadow Ball is going to do so much damage. The opponent will never bait here. They're up a shield, so they're always going to look to full send. And basically the entire Zacian has been sacrificed here. So this battle not off to a great start. The Play Rough is going to be shielded, and it's a CMP tie. That's a pretty big error by the opponent. They had generated a pretty significant advantage, and now they just gave up that shield. And Rhyperior is going to enter the field of play and look to pick up the knockout with the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe is going to KO. Down goes the Giratina. In the back is Xerneas. And Rhyperior, only going for a Breaking Swipe here, did not build up to the Rock Wrecker. Xerneas shields. That is an insane miscount from the opponent, wasting a shield like that. Rhyperior shields up the close combat. There's a switch, and in the back, it's going to be Necrozma Duskmane. Duskmane is going to be smacked with a Rock Wrecker. This will do quite a lot of damage. Rhyperior farming up, and there's a catch onto Morpeko. The opponent was just in a completely winning position if they just don't shield that Breaking Swipe. It only could have been a Breaking Swipe. I don't know if they accidentally mistapped it or if they miscounted, but that's a devastating mistake from the opponent, and they end up losing as a result, as Xerneas just gets KO'd with a Rock Wrecker. Hopping into the next match here, OG St. Nick going up against Timbersaw. That is quite the username. Morpeko into Rhyperior. Oh, this is a disaster. We're going to see a save switch to Zacian. Rhyperior farming up energy, and it's going to look to connect with the hard-hitting Rock Wrecker. Rock Wrecker is going to connect. Massive damage to the Zacian. Zacian returning fire with a Play Rough. Play Rough will not do a ton of damage. Opponent respects a potential close combat. Zacian trying to get to the move and does not get there. And Rhyperior just exits with so much energy. Nick is forced to bring in his own Shadow Rhyperior. He's going to let this through, as it will be the Breaking Swipe. No debuff from the opponent. Opponent firing off more energy. And now we are going to see a shield, as Rhyperior really needs to be the Pokemon to sweep here. The opponent is going to get fully farmed down. Rhyperior has a ton of energy. They send in a Ho-Oh into a near 100 energy Rhyperior. Rock Wrecker, one-shots. What do they have in the back? It's going to be a Mewtwo of all things. And I can't believe it, but the Mewtwo is actually at a slight energy disadvantage here because Morpeko did one Thunder Shock before switching out earlier. Morpeko now going to form change. Morpeko will easily get KO'd by a Psy Strike, but due to the fact that it did one before switching earlier, it actually outpaces. It makes it to the Aura Wheel, and Aura Wheel would KO, so the opponent is forced to shield. If the opponent overfarms correctly, they can win this game, but they don't overfarm enough. They only did 3. That means they're still 2 away. Rhyperior won off the Rock Wrecker, and the opponent is going to end up losing a game where they led Rhyperior into a Great League Morpeko. The absolute scenes. Morpeko cannot catch a break, leading into another Rhyperior, this one Shadow. The Zacian save switch will of course be unanswered. Shadow Rock Wrecker does massive damage here. Opponent actually Breaking Swipe baits. A debuff gets applied, and now Ho-Oh enters the field of play. Ho-Oh is going to be smacked with a Wild Charge. Wild Charge shielded up by the opponent. Throwing one in the move here because if this next Incinerate landed, it would probably just KO, and it does, and the opponent double shields. They don't have to shield that. They survive Wild Charge. In comes Morpeko. I think you just fully sacrifice it and try and 1v3 with the Shadow Rhyperior. That seems to be the most successful strategy for winning with Morpeko in the Master League. Just give Rhyperior a shield advantage and let it cook. In comes the opponent's Shadow Rhyperior, gonna get smacked with a Rock Wrecker. That does massive damage. Opponent is gonna be firing off a Breaking Swipe, fishing for that 50-50 debuff. Rhyperior does not get debuff, so a bit of good luck goes Nick's way. Is the opponent gonna bring back in the Ho-Oh here? The Rhyperior does have a little bit of energy. No, they're going to bring in Necrozma. Necrozma going to get hit with a Breaking Swipe. So potentially going to try and set up a Breaking Swipe into a farm down. Breaking Swipe does get the debuff because ideally as Rhyperior, you want to be close to a move in case Ho-Oh returns to the field of play. There's the Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is going to get knocked out with a Rock Wrecker. I thought Ho-Oh was going to be able to outpace there. I don't know if they got one turn bring it or not, but Rhyperior is able to take that win as the Ho-Oh just could not make it to the move. This is a truly terrible lead, leading Morpeko into Duskmane. Duskmane is going to be hit with the electric type Aura Wheel, and that does not do a lot of damage. Again, this is a great League Pokemon versus Master League Pokemon. Morpeko is going to commit the shield. Necrozma goes for the Dark Pulse. Morpeko now going for the Aura Wheel. Aura Wheel is boosted and now Dark type, so it should actually grab the shield from the opponent. They no shield, and Morpeko KOs a Master League Pokemon from full. Granted, it did have to use a shield to do so, but it's able to pick up a KO. And now in the back, it's actually a Gyarados versus the Zacian. Switching a Gyarados into a Zacian is absolutely wild, because Zacian, of course, more often than not will have Wild Charge, and Wild Charge will just cleanly one-shot the Gyarados. So Gyarados goes from 2 shields to 0 in a split second. Zacian can't quite get there before having to give up its final shield. So the Aqua Tail is going to be shielded. There's a switch into Palkia, now just going to send in Rhyperior. Rhyperior is going to be taking double super effective damage from the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail connects, and that's a one-hit KO. Zacian is farming up quite a bit, looking to pick up a knockout here with a Play Rough. Play Rough into the Palkia, does pick up the KO. In comes the Gyarados. It's gonna be a race, and the Gyarados cannot get there. Zacian, Wild Charge, knocks out the Gyarados, and takes the win. Hopping into the next match, the Mewtwo lead returns, and not a moment too soon, because Mewtwo is basically one of the only leads that Morpeko can actually do anything against. Morpeko is going to be shielding up the Psystrike. We've seen it can almost fully one-shot, farming up to the back-to-back Aura Wheels. Opponents should never be shielding this first move. This is only an electric move, and this opponent is finally going to play it right. So they are going to no-shield the first, as it's non-boosted and it's electric. Oh my goodness, that Psystrike, it's a CMP tie. Mewtwo probably wins that CMP tie by like 150. The opponent now going to send in a Shadow Kyogre, and this is so bad. As Zacian enters the field of play, but there's a Shadow Rhyperior in the back. Shadow Rhyperior is going to get melted by 2 shield Shadow Kyogre. This is so unfortunate here. At the back-to-back Wild Charges, Wild Charge is going to be shielded up by the opponent, making it to Wild Charge number 2. But if the opponent commits the shield here, it's all over. But they let it go. They don't commit to Kyogre. Instead, they're committing to a Dawnwings. Dawnwings could still be trouble, though, as all shields are down, and a Moongeist Beam will do so much damage. Nick's gonna need a catch to win it. In comes Rhyperior. Rhyperior switches out and into the Morpeko. Is it the Moongeist? Yes, it is. And that will be game over, as Shadow Rhyperior is going to make the Rock Wrecker. Rock Wrecker is going to deliver the knockout onto Dawnwings, and that's a good game. Hopping into the final match, Morpeko into Dragonite. This is a miserable lead. We're going to see a switch out into Zacian. Zacian answered with an Ursaluna, and that is not a Pokemon you expect to see in the Master League. Ursaluna, very good in Master Premier, but pretty bad in the open formats. Zacian, tough decision to make here. Do you respect a high horsepower or return? No, instead letting that go. It is just going to be the Ice Punch. Zacian makes it to another Play Rough. This will come pretty close to knocking out the Ursaluna. Ursaluna does decide to commit the shield to the opponent, deciding to make the play for switch advantage. So they're going to fire off the Ice Punch. Ice Punch will not KO. I like the aggressive switch to the Shadow Rhyperior. If you're giving up switch, may as well get an aggressive energy advantage. Rhyperior going to commit the shield. Now the opponent can't really afford to send in the Dragonite. Dragonite's just going to get one shot with a Rock Wrecker if they do. They send in a Mamoswine. Oh boy, this is not going to go well for the opponent. Rock Wrecker Oh my goodness, that damage. They just get farmed down, and now they are in shambles as they have to bring Dragonite into a loaded Shadow Rhyperior. Breaking Swipe is going to be shielded. There's the debuff, and the opponent is going to fire off their energy. But realistically, you have to shield the Rhyperior. Morpeko is not going to be what wins this game. Morpeko is going to make it to an Aura Wheel. Let's see how much damage this does. I am not expecting much. It does actually get it below half HP here, but Morpeko is going to get farmed down. There's still shreds of a Zacian and a Rhyperior. I believe the Dragonite. Oh, actually, in comes the Zacian, and the Zacian on 1 HP gets the move. I was going to say the Dragonite outpaces the Rhyperior, but the Zacian with 0 HP visible makes the last second move and takes the win. All in all, these were some very entertaining battles. I feel it's a very good way as we end up closing out this Season 20 of Go Battle League as a reminder that at the end of the day, Go Battle League is supposed to be fun. Now, it goes without saying, these are highlights. Morpeko in the Master League, he undoubtedly lost hundreds and hundreds of elo doing so, but he did it for our enjoyment, and that is very much appreciated. Speaking of Morpeko in the Open Great League, I'm very excited for next season. With the Thundershock buff increasing the base power from 3 to 4, Thundershock now becomes an electric type clone of the move Poison Sting, which of course Clodsire already has. So it should mean an incremental buff to Morpeko. It's not going to change its matchups a whole lot, but it is going to give it a little bit of extra fast move pressure, which is something that, as someone who really enjoys running Morpeko and thinks the form change mechanic is the coolest thing they've added to Go Battle League in a very, very long time. To me, I see this as an absolute win. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments, if you think back across the season, what was the favorite video on the channel that you have watched? We did upload quite a few. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.